Good morning or good evening, Immutables. Welcome to our town hall. We have a ton of stuff to go through. I'm going to go through Immutable in the news, some macro trends, an update on the Polygon partnership, and some really exciting news that we're going to share here first before we even go into it on PR. So without further ado, let's dive in. While we're waiting for the chat to join, I thought this would be a fun game, which is, what is my favorite game genre? Is it an MMORPG, World of Warcraft, Ember Sword, strategy, for example, Aradina, or TCGs like Gods Unchained, or finally MOBAs like League of Legends? I think this QR code will do something. I will wait 20 seconds. Okay, the answer is League of Legends. So much so that I have banned myself from playing the game outside of a couple of days a year. I played about 3,000 hours in final years of high school. So very much looking forward to the MOBAs building on Immutable today, and one where you could actually own your characters is extremely exciting. Great. So today we're going to go through four main things. First, macro trends and things a bit. Second, a couple of major updates from Immutable. Third, I want to give an update on the partnership that is now 10 to 12 weeks old that we've launched with Polygon, where we have some extremely exciting results to share. And finally, I want to go into our Community Hero Spotlight program. So first, the question I get asked most often is, when will Web3 gaming go mainstream? And when will we first see games with tens of millions or hundreds of millions of players? Do an example of Counter-Strike Go and use this to paint a picture of how we see this entire landscape unraveling over the next 2 years. And the first thing is that gaming is completely hit-driven, probably more so than most other industries like movies. And typically it conforms to a power law. And a power law means the first ranking has more results, the second down to infinity. The second has more than the third down to infinity. And typically that's what we see in gaming. The largest game or the largest will do more revenue than every other game in existence combined. The second largest will do more than the rest combined. And we may, but ultimately, what we expect is that 80 to 90% of the games launched in Web3 may make some money, but will not actually be a mainstream success or acquire tens of millions of players or be around for many years. It'll be 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 these hits. And that's why we have to onboard as many games as possible and try and make sure that they can have the best chance to succeed possible. Not based on, are there smart contract bugs? Are they dropping 80% of users when they have to sign private keys or write down their seed phrases? Our goal is make it as easy as possible for them to win, but ultimately we have to have many, many shots on goals. But when you have results that will revolutionize the entire industry. And Counter-Strike Go is a great example of this. In the last 3 years, CSGO in secondary market trading on assets in a database, with Steam taking 15% and huge amounts of fraud, chargebacks, changes by Valve where they randomly trade lock assets occurring. So we think this number could be far higher than 40 billion odd in open ecosystem. But right now that number is so large that it would be more than half of all NFT volume to date, including all speculation and all art volume since the inception of NFTs as a category. If you look at the second largest, something like an Axie, it's sitting roughly around the 4 billion mark. And so we're already seeing the power law start to emerge and how we expect these economies to go. So really, when we say the next 6 to 8 inflection point for Web3 gaming, that's because this is the point in time where, based on our bottoms-up analysis, we know 40% of the $15 billion gaming in the last 2.5 years in Web3 will be going live. And there'll be there'll be hundreds of games going live. 5% will become hits. And so I think this is important for A, expectations managing, but also B, all it takes is one single game to have 10 million or 100 million players for us to triple the user base of Web3 overnight and to start getting people to use digital ownership without even knowing under the hood what they're using. So I think there'll be a huge inflection point based on these games as we see them go live. I think it's coming out in October and November of this year. Illuvium, Guild of Guardians, Shardbound, Bitfry with Infinite Victory, that all are coming these games. The second thing I wanted to go over is one of the most exciting partnerships we've announced this year, apart from obviously Polygon, which is Phoenix Games. Now, if some of you don't know, the Phoenix Games team is really well versed in building successful games. This is the team behind Need for Speed, Plants vs. Zombies, multiple billion-dollar hits at the team layer. And really, those are the teams we're trying to work with most right now. We think the first 2 years of Web3 gaming, you saw a lot of DeFi developers and Web3 native developers building games who have never done it before, and some of those will be successful. We think the majority of game development is going to come from Web2 developers switching into the industry, and that's why we want to build a platform that's incredibly easy for a game developer to use without smart contract or tokenomics expertise, because they know how to build repeatable games that are high quality, that will attain. So a little more on Phoenix Games. Phoenix Games is launching a $150 million fund to incubate and they've already raised this. So in terms of the budget that is going in to gaming on Immutable right now, it's insane. If you look at a single game like Call of Duty Warzone, its budget is roughly $100 to $200 million. So we think there's huge to incubate more early stage projects and more games to be launching over the next couple of years. I'm really thrilled with this and expect to hear more from us and the Phoenix team over the next 6 months. The second thing I wanted to Unchained launched on the Epic Store. We think this is going to be the first of many games launching in the Epic Store. There's already a few other games on Immutable. And actually, as of today, we are trending. So we're on the front page. If you go check it out, user numbers are up. Really excited about this. And importantly, this represents an alternative to a lot of the store aggregation policies around, say, Steam or Valve right now, taking very protective approaches to the modes that they enjoy. And I want to call this out because the decisions made by these companies based on what they think are best for players. It is based on protecting their bottom line and maintaining the moat that they have as making $5 billion of primary sales every single year for distributing games through Steam. They make likely that again on taking clips on secondary transactions, all while taking 15% and preventing this stuff from becoming real economies where people can own it. We think Epic Store is taking a great counter approach to that because they see this opportunity to build a fairer system, which is operating around creator empowerment and lower fees. So super excited for this, and we'll be rolling this out to as many of the games building as possible. As always, the benefit of us doing it for our games is we know exactly how to make this a service that can be offered for free to all of the hundreds of games built on Immutable today. Then I want to go into a really exciting update on the Polygon partnership. Months in, we are operating a partnership, and I am thrilled to share, and we'll be doing some press around this, that consecutive quarters of sales growth for Immutable. So onboarding more and more games, where Q1 of this year was more than all games won in the previous history of Immutable combined. We just had our best onboarding month ever in terms of the value of games we are onboarding onto the platform. You can see here the trajectory post the Polygon partnership announcement, and this is down to two things. I think one is we are simplifying the choice that developers have. If anyone remembers that Delphi analysis, the funding for Web3 games as attributed to blockchains basically everything came down to Immutable and Polygon, with roughly $1 billion each building on our platforms last year. And developers were really torn between the two. We've now heard, and anecdotally, the major feedback is developers who are having to choose between them now can have a much simpler choice. And it's pretty clear that on the scaling side, on Ethereum, which are completely EVM compatible, are going to be the long-term future of scaling. They're strictly superior to any other infrastructure stack, and we're thrilled to be building the Immutable ZK EVM with the Polygon team. So honestly, the number that matters probably most to us internally, this is a record-breaking month for us. We're really thrilled and explore as we ramp through this and onboard more and more games over the next year. The second thing I wanted, every single day I think for this month of June, actually, we will be onboarding a game. But all of these games are high quality and high budget games. You'll often hear from other teams vanity numbers around the number of games that they've onboarded in any particular month. We will always contextualize these because we do not focus on manually onboarding anyone who is not in our classification. So we're through common, uncommons, rare, epics, and legendaries. And that's because if you don't have at least millions of dollars in funding, you don't have a chance really to go mainstream as a game. You don't have sufficient budget. Where a couple of scrappy devs can put together a team and make something go viral. Obviously, there are exceptions. There's the Flappy Birds of the world. There's the Minecraft of the world, originally built by one person. But the majority of this is like building production quality movies. You need large budgets they're doing, and it's longer production cycles. And that's why we really focus on every single one of these games should have a real shot at becoming a mainstream hit. So that's the commitment we make to you. We aim to be as transparent as possible. That's why I share this in detail. But honestly, we're thrilled with this result. And off the back of this, we're actually massively increasing our sales team. And so we'll be roughly doubling the headcount in our business development team in particular. We've already hired 10 in the last 6 weeks. And that's a huge opportunity right now, especially in expansion in Japan and Korea, which are 2 markets which are going very aggressively into Web3 gaming to consolidate market leadership and to really focus on how do we make the choices for game developers simple, which I think we've now done, but then increase the chance that they can be successful as much as possible. And by all games really building in the same place, we can make sure that they're helping each other, they're offering advice, that liquidity is pulling into a single area, and that we're building users who want to be playing and trying everything out. Yeah, really excited to share this with you. You're literally the first people to hear it. We'll be sharing some public news on this very soon. Community Spotlight. This is something new we're trying. Obviously, Nigel team are running our community hero programs, which I think resulted in exceptional quality of individuals working on creating content and constant updates on what we're building at Immutable. I wanted to make a call out to Rubik and D'Souza, who have created a podcast called Gamers Galaxy. Hugely enjoyed the last one. They dove into the developer experience Immutable and why our investment in Stripe-like APIs and SDKs makes it 10 times easier than any other even contracts, let alone new blockchains which require proprietary languages to be learned by developers. So I think this has been awesome so far. Really thrilled to have you on board, and we'll be expanding this in the coming months. Please reach out if you do want to become one of these community heroes. This is from the last podcast. Immutable understands what's necessary to get big developers to come in. The last SDK update by 30-40%. This makes our lives so much easier. People have switched from competitor platform because of the SDK quality of Immutable. And I think the position we're in is we don't have to go out there and overspend on grants, because ultimately the reason developers are choosing us is the ecosystem and liquidity that they're able to tap into, now Immutable plus Polygon, plus a developer experience that is completely dedicated to games, because we've built them ourselves and we've started with this as the identity of the company. Quick recap of our flywheel, and I wanted to dive into, in particular, why our community is so important because of what we are building. So our goal is How do we onboard more games, make those games successful? Every single player of those games can actually own a piece of those games, which is the beauty of what we're building with a decentralized web and with Web3. They can become part of this overall mission and community of how do we make digital property rights real. That community then can go evangelize to more people. And this is how we take on the biggest companies in the world and the biggest monopolies in the world in resetting digital property rights for the future. And that's why it's not just a world-class team, but it's also a world-class community. I want to dive into both minutes. First, I wanted to go into our team. As many of my coaches have told me, people is everything in building a company. And so I wanted to go through just the executive team, and this is not everyone, but and certainly not the extended leadership team where we have another 30 individuals. But these are some of the people who are working night and day to help make digital rights real for gamers. James, my and brother, the less public-facing one, is our CEO. James was actually previously the software engineer of a multi-billion-dollar e-commerce company based down here in Australia. I built many previous technology startups with him. We've been obsessed with crypto since 2015 with Ethereum. We were actually in crypto since 2014, but we didn't think it was that exciting with just Bitcoin. Fun fact about James, he was previously a internationally competitive bridge player. We are SVP of tokenomics, Eddie Burrows. Myself, obviously, hello. Alex, my co-founder and CTO. Best executive leaders, but also best engineers I've ever met. I met him at university while he was working on just building toys on Ethereum and early smart contracts. He helped to invent things like batch minting, deferred minting for ERC-721 contracts early on in 2017 and 18. Architect pretty much all of our ZK tech. Extremely excited to be working with him, and he leads product engineering and design as our CTO. Jill, Chief Operating Officer. We like to think of her as a Sheryl Sandberg. Maybe pre some of the controversy. Jill's an incredible operator. We brought her on from Airtree, where she was operating partner, which is a multi-billion-dollar venture capital firm down in Australia. Before that, two technology companies incredibly successfully. One Vamp and the other Safety Culture as COO, helping transform and grow that business from multi-$100 million valuation to a multi-billion-dollar valuation. Jason, some of you may have interacted with Jason if you're a game. He's our chief commercial. He leads all of our go-to-market and a lot of the news that I shared today. So business development, sales, partner success, ecosystem, developer growth. Formerly was the head of global expansion markets and the director of Southeast Asia at Shopify. So led a large team there, has a ton of experience. And I got a question to this later on, but I want to touch on it now, which is, what is the common thread through a lot of our executive leadership teams? And a lot of it is we pulled in the best Web 2 talent into Web 3, who was passionate about it, but may not have had previous experience. This differs from some other companies in the space. And the reason we did it is very, very difficult to hire top quality Web 3 talent because people working in Web 3 is much smaller than the number of people working in Web 2. Many of the best people are retired because they were in crypto early on, or working or founding their own things. Often the best people you can find are people who are passionate, who are moonlighting in crypto, buying, playing DeFi, but they're classic, very successful Web 2 technology executives. And I think this is why we have a much higher hiring bar and a much others in the space, is because we've really focused on, we need exceptional people no matter where they come from. As long as they have a passion, they can learn. Because all is not too complex. We need to be building for people who are just ordinary game developers. Web 3 should not be a category of gaming. Horizontal layer by which assets are owned. And I think this is really important and critical to how we've hired at all layers, but particularly this executive layer. Devin is our Chief Marketing Officer. He joined us roughly 5 months ago. He was formerly the Chief Marketing Officer of Avalanche. So Avalanche obviously helped grow that to tens of billions of dollars and is accelerating marketing over here greatly. Director of a bunch of stuff at Disney. Kath, our Chief People Officer, has done an incredible job helping Immutable scale from 80 people when she nearly 300 full-time today, and well over that if you include contractors. And previously, she was the Global VP of People at. Dave Bicknell, our CFO, been with us for, I think, nearly a year now. Formerly was the SVP of Finance at Airwallex, and also led all of finance for Facebook app. So running basically an $80 billion P&L statement. Dave is massive crypto and exceptional. Ed, our Chief Legal and Risk Officer, I think it's clear how important this is in today's regulatory environment. He formerly ran a public company here in Australia and has done an exceptional job on compliance, both for the company, but also for our customers, on helping them build safely as Web2 game developers. And Justin, our Chief Studio Officer. So all the things, Guild of Guardians, Gods Unchained, Infinite Victory, Shardbound, Bitfry on the studio side. And Justin actually formerly ran games for Asia, helped launch a lot of their products there, including Teamfight Tactics and their show. So Justin's been fantastic and will be spearheading lots of our launches in November with the studio team. Great. The second thing I want to touch on apart from team is community. And you'll note that the key part of our, apart from onboarding more games, making those games successful, is building this community. And that's because unless we can really change the definition of how players think about ownership inside of games and have them demand this right from games, we will not shift how player ownership works. We have to have this key hit, but we also have to have people telling developers why this matters so much. And so this is genuinely a call out. You know, if you're listening on this video right now, if you're going to watch this back later, you're probably core fans. We greatly value you. If you give us feedback, we will listen to it. If you share, people will listen to you. And I think we have one of these communities in the space in terms of the quality of the average person who listens. If you look at the quality of our advocates, if you look at the level of transparency that we have with our community, we invest in this so that you can have the clearest possible information to go and talk about this and evangelize about this. So, you know, some actions, but you know, please, if it's simple as sharing a game with one of our friends, sharing this all hands with one of your friends, coming and following us and chatting to us in Discord or Twitter, all of this stuff matters, and we really appreciate it. Next, I wanted to go into quickly our values. So we have our core values. What I wanted to touch on is the 4 latest additions that we've added, more insight into how we're running. I'll just quickly cover this. So the first is, and I want to call each of these as a trade-off. We are choosing one thing over another. I think that unless your values are an active trade-off where people can opt out of your company, they're not an interesting value. And in fact, the best descriptions of company should be opt-in company cultures. Ones where you have to say, I really want to be a part of this, rather than that is just a default culture that is appealing to everyone. A culture should not be appealing to everyone by definition, or it means nothing. And our first pillar here we've created is category creators. And this is basically, we are not here to run a SaaS company and optimize P&L by 10% every year. We are here to create a category from scratch. It is incredibly difficult. There will be many, many adversaries in every walk of PR, of the game development incumbents, of people who are anti-crypto. And this is fine because we're here to build something new because we think it's fundamentally important. And we care about this more than just maintaining some existing technology company and making the most money possible. The second is courage over comfort. Radical candor. If you haven't read the most impactful book you can read, I think on both a personal and company level, but this is, if there are 2 decisions in front of you and one of them makes you feel uncomfortable and the other doesn't, and you weight them both equally, you should do the thing that makes you uncomfortable because your brain is cognitively biasing you to disproportionately weight the thing that makes you comfortable. And so we want people to do hard things and hard decisions because that's how you make step functions from progress. Community over individuals. I think this is really important. If you have a performance culture without a focus on community and team, you end up with a bunch of individualists who can't work together, who are ultimately engaging in politics as well. And community is not just internally, it's all community we've built about the 500,000 people who follow Immutable, who are current evangelists, who are owning part of the games that they now play. And the last is basically obsessing on our customers, which are game developers, rather than. And that means we want to focus on how do we create the best experience for game developers rather than winning DeFi, winning art, winning collectibles. And I think this is the reason why, obviously now we're incredibly well funded, roughly 200 million US dollars. But back a year ago, we had nowhere near as much as the other major blockchains we were competing with for this mantle of who could create the dominant platform for gaming. And the reason we've been able to have that traction and pull through is because we've been only focused on gaming since day one. And that resonates both as we speak to these customers, but also if we build a product that is much better for them. So I wanted to go through quickly a Q&A and also just help us grow this town hall, share it on Twitter, like, subscribe, all of that good YouTube stuff. But I'll quickly jump through a Q&A on some of the questions you guys have asked me. So first, there must have been significant shifts and changes in the market as Immutable progressed. Company values held up over time. So the only significant change, and obviously we've just added on those culture pillars I just went through, which are additions to our existing culture. The main change is when we started out, we used to have this value of there is no speed limit, which is you could go 10 times faster on everything. And replace that with we take ownership. The reason being we found it fine to tell people to go 10 times faster, but I think as the scales, the most important thing is we agree on metrics and goals and we get it done no matter what. And we're better at planning. I think early on, you can probably just throw yourselves at problems and get them done incredibly quickly. You have all the context. Planning is not a big piece of the company. Now you're a 300 company, we have more management layers. I think this value of get the job done no matter what, being extreme ownership over your goals is a more appealing one to kind of achieving the same goal. The second one, which is, can you explain the different focuses? Absolutely. So the two main things we have in Immutable today is Immutable, the platform, and this includes the product, Immutable ZK EVM, Immutable X, and that is probably our biggest investment as a company into technology, product engineering and design. And also as part of this is go-to-market. So how do we help onboard game developers onto this platform? The other side of the company, studios. We ourselves develop or publish games. And we do this for two reasons. One, we think we can create exceptional games that help define what Web3 gaming can look like and make sure that's really healthy for players. But two, because it is only by building these games ourselves that we know how to build the best possible product for game developers, that we know how to build the best possible economy and IP for free to every game building on our platform. And that is our vision. Even if another trading card game or another ARPG comes on the platform, we will share all our internal IP, because right now it is not one Web3 game versus another Web3 game. It is the entire industry versus the large incumbents who are selling $150 billion of items every year and giving players $0 for it. There are many people who come from high-profile backgrounds and deep expertise. What's the commonality between all of your exec hires? What are the... I would say the top three things we look for is culture. So humble, hungry, smart. Are they going to fit into the culture? I think Australians are quite low ego by default. Maybe a product of our tall cut out at you as a young age. I think that's really important. We want top performing people, but we have no room for politics. We need to move fast. If you have sharp elbows, you're probably not going to fit in here. Second, I think, is just highest bar possible. We want exceptional people who have done and done that job similarly before. We don't care where we have to look to find this. I think we've hired probably the best talent possibly in Australia. You can look through our list. I think it's pretty clear. And the third thing is they have to have done it before, and they have to have strong opinions on what the job looks like. The more hiring, the more that individual has to have a very strong opinion on what the function and its details should look like. You're not asking them specific questions. You're asking them, this is Immutable, how would you run finance? How would you run operations? And they should have a really solid answer to that question, after only having a look at the company for a few hours. So I think we look for them bringing a lot of clarity to that role and having very strong opinions on how it out. Thanks everyone for joining our latest and fourth Immutable Town Hall. We'll continue to iterate these. Please like, subscribe, share your favorite moments on Twitter, and help us grow the community. Many thanks and see you next time.